Hello, welcome, Miss Rice. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. First of all, thank you for joining us. For taking the time out to join us. As you know, this is 25 years that we're celebrating at the
Um,
Academy, and I thought that it would be great to be able to speak to 25 individuals who not only trained and experienced what soodothai is, but contributed to it and had very special memories and moments with it, and be able to get you guys feedback. Um,
it's a pleasure.
for those of you guys obviously who don't know, this is Miss Anitra Rice, and she has a very interesting and phenomenal story attached to the martial arts. And I'm gonna, or the academy, should I say? And I'm gonna kind of ask her some questions and kind of let her, in her own words, be able to kind of expound on those things and share. So first of all, when did you join the academy?
I joined the academy in January, at the end of January of 2010, beginning of February. And it was literally like 2 weeks after my ex-husband and I separated and then, subsequently divorced. But yeah, that's when I joined.
Wow, wow. So what programs did you train in at the academy?
Everything. Everything. Of course, the traditional soodothai curriculum. And then also I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think I had maybe like one or two classes in boxing, but predominantly I did mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
That was my love. So
Yeah, so for you, those of you guys who don't know, this woman competed in everything. She competed in the traditional martial arts, doing forms and sparring. She competed in MMA, believe it or not, and was extremely successful in that realm. She competed in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, did weapons at tournaments, you name it, she did it. And I think that's inspiring, especially being that you started as an adult. This isn't something that you started from childhood that followed you. So why don't you tell us what made you decide to start training to begin with, and then we can kind of get into the rest of that.
watching my sons train, at the time it was just Josiah and Jaden that were training, and then later Nicholas trained. But watching them train, it looked like so much fun. And then I remember during one of the banquets, I saw two adult women up there training and breaking boards, and it was Dee Jenkins and Christine. Golly, my
Hey,
brain.
Christine Reed.
Yeah, Christine Reed.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, like damn, it inspired me so much. And I was just like, I got to do this. I got to
Yeah.
do this. And at the time, I was still married and we were still together. But I was like, in my heart, I was like, do this. I got to do it. So once he left, I was like, all right, bet.
Perfect excuse, perfect reason. Everything is aligned and it's perfect now. So thanks for clearing the way for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were a parent turned student,
Yes.
and I think that's phenomenal. How did that impact your relationship with your boys?
Oh my gosh. It was a definitely a bonding moment for us, definitely so. They encouraged me and I encouraged them.
Right.
Yeah, it was definitely, oh, golly, I even think up to like Josiah sitting on my testing board, my first testing board for
Yeah.
Black Belt, and just how proud he was of me. And after he passed, to be able to have a letter that I found that he had written for me to read to me that I didn't know was there, and to have it read at my black belt testing, it was just like, yeah, it was a bond. It was a bond that connected me and my guys.
So for those who don't know, you have three children
Mm-hmm.
that eventually began training at the academy. It was two initially, which was Josiah and Jaden, and then eventually Nicholas. He was younger and he started following suit, and mom was
Yeah.
out there having fun, and it was an entire family thing. And I think that it's a really big deal. So anybody that's watching this who kids train, and you think maybe you're too old or they'll think it's weird or corny, it's a really great bonding moment. Every parent and student or parent student relationship, that I've had at the academy. I've noticed that it's been some tremendous bonding moments that they've had. You mentioned that that Josiah passed away, and also Jaden passed away.
Yeah.
And we've always been close, but we've grown closer over the years, you and I, because I had an opportunity to be able to obviously be their instructor. Josiah, as you said, sat on your black belt testing board. So he did graduate to black belt, and then Jaden was one of our advanced students that did exceptionally well, went off and did well at wrestling and other endeavors also. How did your training and the things that you received from the academy, because martial arts isn't just physical, there's a lot of mental and emotional components that's a part of that as well. How did that help you through that entire process in dealing with losing, both Josiah and Jaden?
Man, the mindfulness of martial arts, the mindfulness that it takes to really excel in the art. And it's still helping me, honestly, to be able to connect with my breath and my body, and to recognize when I need to be soft, and at the same time recognizing the strength that I have. And then, you wanting me to train after Josiah left. And at first I was like, this is crazy. But it helped me so much. It helped me so much. And now after, Jaden is gone and, me starting back training again, I realized that I'm not the same person I was when I first started martial arts, but that everything that I have gone through and that has made me who I am today, I was able to bring to the mat just last Tuesday. And it was just like, I was so proud of myself. I was just like, just because it's been, I think like maybe 2 years or so since the last time I've trained. And I was so proud of myself, just the way my mind approached everything, and just how it allowed me to tap back into my strength. And I'm so grateful. I love martial arts. I'm so grateful.
Well, I'm glad that we were there, in your times of need, in your deepest and darkest times. I mean, we talk about, you talk about finding the martial arts right after a separation, and becoming a single mom, and then the martial arts still being there when you obviously had to grieve the losses of your sons. We are blessed to be and honored to be able to be in that position to help, because that's what this is supposed to be about. Many individuals feel like the martial arts is just a physical journey and pursuit. They don't understand and see all of the other things that it entails. So, it is our pleasure and our honor to be able to be there. We thank individuals for entrusting us to be able to come into their lives and their homes and their families to be there during these times and these moments. So it is definitely an honor for us, and we appreciate it. We talked a little bit about your black belt testing and your son sitting on that board. We boast a very proud, I don't know what the word, statistic, I guess you might want to say, about our black belt testing. And, it's one of those things where it doesn't start off that way, but then as time progresses, you're like, man, we're like on a roll here. Like, we're on the streak. Like, this is like an amazing thing. It's like if you watch basketball, someone hits a few free throws in a row, and then they're like, he hasn't missed in 2 months. You're like, I didn't know that until you brought it up. So no pressure, but your black belt tester came around. It was an honor for your son to have gotten his black belt before you and sit on your testing board. But tell us about that first black belt testing and what happened in that experience with that situation.
Well, I broke the record.
Yeah, you did. You did. That's true. You're a record breaker.
It's so funny because just sitting here now, I just got this revelation. So I was up for, testing and everything, and I was giving it my all, and I passed out. And I didn't complete. So that was an epic fail.
Right.
And the first to ever fail black belt testing at Academy of Soodothai. However, looking back at it now and looking at who I am today, I get it. I get why I failed. And this is why I did not believe in myself.
Mm.
And up to that point, I had borrowed your belief in me to get me to that point.
Right.
But like before I even hit the mat to test, my legs felt like I had already did 1,000,000 push-ups, or I'm sorry, jumping jacks. Mm-hmm. And they were just like, I could tell that my legs were fatigued, and I hadn't done anything that morning other than stretch. Right. And what I'm realizing now in my journey of healing is that martial arts, when you hit that mat, it's a reflection of your relationship with yourself.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right.
And so my relationship, and my relationship with myself was not where it is today. And I did not realize that. Mm. And so now I'm a licensed therapist, and I get like predominantly what I work on with my clients is their relationship with themselves, and through mindfulness, self-compassion, and all these other, techniques and, models of therapy. But the thing that has gotten me through my healing and continues to is I had to learn how to love Anitra. And I'm still learning how to love Anitra and what that means in every stage of my well-being, or my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, and all of that. And that has been the journey that God has been taking me on. Mm-hmm. And so on Tuesday, when I came back after 2 years and I, was doing the exercises and everything, it was different because when I felt certain sensations in my body, I didn't scoff at myself. I didn't negatively judge myself. I just noticed it. And I was just like, this is interesting. But because I've been training outside of, martial arts training, but I still continue to work out, lift weights, and all that kind of stuff. The Lord has been teaching me how to welcome certain discomfort in my body when I'm training, and not to tense up, but to welcome it with curiosity and with joy. And so I've been able to grow in my workouts outside of, martial arts. And I was able to bring that relationship with myself to Tuesday on the mat. And so that's how come I was able to do more than what I thought that I was going to be able to do. Right. And so the relationship with myself has changed. And so the vertigo, I was like, dang it, because I was actually so happy to I'm doing it, Yeah. But it's, it's just a minor setback. It'll be all right. But yeah, what happened at my testing, the first testing was, I didn't have a healed or positive relationship with myself, and I didn't believe in myself. And there was a quote that you always told us, and it was like, whoever believes he can, and whoever believes that he can't. And that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what happened. And so for me, I'm so excited that my relationship with myself now has grown exponentially. So I'm just like, oh, I wonder what can I do now?
Yeah, it's I've always also said, I used to like to borrow a ton of quotes. The mat is a mirror into your life, and you hit the nail right on the head, because a big part of what I do right before black belt testing, as is when I have privates with people, I already know that you guys know the technique, and we can sharpen up some forms and work some technique, and I can answer questions. But what I do, whether people really notice it or not, is I do more of a mental evaluation and evaluation of self. And I want to see ahead of time, where is this person at? How is this person feeling? I ask a lot of questions about What are you thinking? How are you feeling? What are your concerns? You know, let's put those at ease right now. And I really try my best to be able to invoke that level of positivity in these individuals, make sure they're feeding themselves a steady diet of positivity. Because just like you said, Nicole says, if you believe you can, you can. And if you believe you can't, you can't. And I'm glad that you have that self-reflection. I know that's the type of individual that you are anyway. And yeah, you did break a record. And let me tell you something. Every one of those testings, because you helped me, every one of those testings, I went in and I was terrified. I was terrified sitting on the board. What you guys, what people, a lot of people don't understand is that it's a testing for you guys, but then you guys are a reflection of myself and the academy as well. So I have people sitting on this board. I have my instructor, and at times I was inviting other black belts down from different places, other masters, other grandmasters. I know that you should be prepared, but I have no idea what the performance will yield. And then these individuals are then in turn looking at me. So I'm nervous. Like I am like almost throw up nervous on testing day. What a lot of people also don't know is that we have a banquet directly after the testing. And at that banquet, these individuals, they have to sell tickets for their friends and family to be able to come. And then the first portion of the testing is closed. It's only for black belts to be there because, you know, testing is just not a very pretty thing. People are tired. They're not at their best moment. And then after they've had a chance to rest later in the evening, we go over to the banquet. That's where their friends and family are waiting. There's DJ there, there's food. And then they finish up the testing doing things that are a little bit more appeasing for people to see, you know, and their friends and family are there. So that's a lot of pressure for us because I'm like, these people, we've got a banquet sitting there and we've already assured mentally ourselves that this person is going to pass this first phase so that way they can finish their testing at the banquet. Because if you don't pass in the dojo, then there's none, we're not celebrating necessarily anything at the banquet. And it was okay when there was 5, 6, 7 testing candidates. But then when it's just 1 or 2, then we got a room full of people that's waiting for 1 or 2 individuals that may or may not be successful. So there's a lot of pressure that was there. And when that happened, when you were unsuccessful in that initial attempt, for me, I just was like, I don't know what to do. I've never experienced this before. You know, I've always had this track record where we've had 30 or so black belt testings and everybody passed, or I can't remember what the number was at the time. I'm like, I do not have a protocol in place for this. I have no idea what to do at this point, how to feel, what to say. I don't know. So I grew as a martial artist. I grew as an instructor that day because now I have a experience to be able to reference in the event that this happens, because nobody's perfect. And at this point, at some point, this was bound to happen. And, you know, I'm very appreciative of that, because in that situation, not only did it give you insight, but it also was able to help me, help the other black belts, and help everybody else. So I'm appreciative of that. Also, I am very proud because you came back and you did what?
I earned my black belt.
That's right. That's right. You came back. You didn't give up.
No less. Like, golly. Like, and while I was like heavily grieving Josiah's death, like, like, yeah.
So for those who don't know, her son at this point had passed away. She was grieving his death, and previously he was on her board for her black belt testing, and she had to come back and find the courage, perseverance, and wherewithal to take the test again, you know, in his absence. And she was successful, not just for him, but for herself as well. And we are very proud of you, because that is an amazing story in itself. There's so many elements about your journey and your story that makes you unique and just makes it an amazing story. How did you feel once you were able to come back and you were able to be successful in that second black belt testing attempt?
I'm verklempt just thinking about it, honestly. I can't even put it into words. I definitely felt Josiah with me, just saying, Mom, you got this. You got this. It felt so unbelievable and indescribable. I look back on it and I'm like, whoa, like, I did this. And if ever I doubt my strength, and I don't, because it's not about physical strength, it's about a deeper strength. And it's not about just pushing through something, you know, it's deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. And it's like, I did it. And I might as well have won the Super Bowl. Like,
That's right. That's right.
it was just like everything. It was definitely humbling. It was and even now I'm like, I started when I was like 30, like about 32 years old. And now, Lord willing, I'll be 47 this year.
Wow.
And yeah, and I'm just like, oh, I just got started.
That's
You
right.
know? Yeah. So I'm like, I wonder if I could, you know, do this kick now, you know, because you know, I'm like working on opening up my hips more because I really want to be able to like nail certain head kicks and stuff like that. And so for me, it was just like, I did that, but here's the ways that I know I can improve physically because now I know that I can do this. And I know on the inside that, oh, that I am enough. I think after the divorce, I was out to prove that I was enough.
Yeah.
And now it's like, yeah.
So you had a divorce that you were off of that was working against you. You were a single mother of 3 kids, happened to pay tuition and also all of the bills and everything else that came along with being a single mom. At some point along that journey, you had to deal with illnesses, eventually losing 2 of your kids. But if that wasn't enough, during your martial art career, you also sustained a significant injury. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, when you said illnesses, I was like, dang, like because I had a hernia and I had to have surgery like during my training. But then, yeah, when I tore my ACL and my meniscus, and my doctor was like, yeah, your meniscus was floating in your knee. I was like,
Wow.
wow, how
Wow.
about that?
Wow.
I was like, how cool.
So
So,
you had every right and every reason to just say, hey, look, this is just I can't battle all of these things and be able to make it to this particular goal. There's too much. The fates are just simply conspiring against me. There is too much. And again, not starting when you're a child, starting when you're older. You know, sometimes our body betrays us. Sometimes we didn't take the best care of our body because when you started your martial art journey, you were just a little bit heavier than you are now. Is that right? Just a little bit.
a little bit. Yeah, I was, you know, all of the depression and the heaviness that I faced in my marriage and all of the pain, I ate it. And it was, it showed up on the scale in my body. And martial arts for me was a way for me to get back to Anitra. Mm-hmm. And I was able to do that. And of course, I lost weight, I gained confidence and things like that. What's so beautiful about it is that I was so passionate about beginning martial arts that I remember, I still have a picture that Christine took of me in my white belt. And like, I remember like, I didn't have that much room left in my white belt because, you know, after you tie it.
Right.
But I remember I could barely do like 2 or 3 push-ups, and I was winded after like only a few jumping jacks, but I didn't care.
Yeah.
I was having so much fun and I was so passionate about doing it that I just went out there and I did it. And then, you know, because a black belt is a white belt who never quit.
Right.
I just kept going and the results came and they just kept, and, you know, before I knew it, I think it was like I started that January. By the time September hit, I had lost over 100 pounds.
Wow. Wow. That is
Mhm.
amazing. That's
Yeah, and it
amazing.
was
So,
just, yeah, it was just, and I wasn't starving myself, anything like that. I was just enjoying this new freedom, this physical freedom
yeah.
that I found. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people, they don't look at martial arts because they look at it again as fighting. They don't understand there's so many different benefits and so much value that comes from it because it's also a form of being able to obviously exercise. So you've already brought up the fact that there's therapeutic components that's there. Obviously, we know about self-defense. We obviously know about competition. We all obviously have talked about the family and the bonding, and now we're talking about also just the benefits of being able to exercise and be able to, create a better version of yourself and a healthier version of yourself, not only mentally and emotionally, but also physically. So that is amazing. How did you rebound after that injury? Tell us about coming back after that injury and getting back to training.
And I remember when I called you from like the doctor's office in tears, and I was like, "It's my ACL." I was like, "Oh my God." Rebounding was scary. It was so scary because I still needed to, even though, I did physical therapy and all of that, and relearning how to walk again and use my leg. I couldn't even run like after surgery. I had to stay like completely off my leg for 6 weeks. And so my muscles had atrophied to the point where my physical therapist took me up to the track in the facility, and she was like, "Okay, I want to see you run." And I'm thinking, I'm running, I'm trying to run. I could not run. It was like, it was this weird kind of hobble. And she was like, "Yeah, you have a dumb butt." Like, really? And she said the muscle in my glute had atrophy. And so I had to like work that back out and, all of these things. And so when I finally was able to like get back to the mat and take off my knee brace and all of that, I was scared.
Right.
I was so afraid.
Right.
And I think too, that had came into play as well during my first testing.
Sure.
Just that fear of not just believing in myself, but also not believing that my knee could actually do this.
Right.
And
Right.
so it was scary. Every little anything, I was just like,
Yeah, there's a lot of
so
mental components to this as well. A lot of individuals, they don't take that into consideration just because you have had the surgery and they physically repaired it. From a mental standpoint, there's so much pain and trauma that's associated with injuring your body in that particular fashion that a lot of times we have to psychologically be able to realize and believe that, you know what, I can do this now. You know what I mean? And we're traumatized a little bit, worried about re-injuring it and re-aggravating it or having to go back through that entire process once again. So then we have to not only physically be able to reacclimate ourselves to things, we have to psychologically and mentally do it also. So that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
What is your fondest moment at the academy?
My fondest moment, man, I don't know if there's just one, but a couple come to mind. Just me and my guys, having out there my guys there, them finding friendships, them finding a place of belonging. Like I said, during the divorce, like the bottom fell out of their lives.
Right.
And so for us, for me as a mom, I had a few staples that had to remain. That was, they were in martial arts before the divorce. They had to stay in martial arts. Church was a non-negotiable in school. And then the other component of that was our special nights. Me and my guys, every weekend that they were with me, we always had a special night where I would call it my date with my guys. And we would do something really special together. And so having them there and during fight night, especially on Friday nights, It was lit. It
It
was just
was. It
everything. Man,
was. It
it
was.
was great. Like
It was.
watching them fight, even when, especially when Nicholas started training too, him and Maxwell.
Yeah, yeah.
It was great. Maxwell and Tyler. And then watching my guys spar and just develop their confidence. And then, me up there sparring, and I was just growing and growing. And it was so much fun. And the whole night. And then afterwards, there was like nogi. And so we were like rolling and stuff like that. And I was like, I was living my best life as a tomboy because I was grown. I was like, yes, I wanted to roll with the guys, and I would get so irritated when they would like treat me like all gentle and soft like a
Yeah,
flower. I'm like, come
yeah,
on, like roll with me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So a lot,
So yeah,
it's funny how life is. It's like you never know when you are, living in the good old days, or when you live in those best moments. You don't know it because we look back, and
yeah,
I'm listening to the stories myself, and I'm remembering how it was almost like an event. On those Fridays, the parents were standing outside looking through the windows. It was so packed in there. I mean, everybody was fighting like it was for a competition or for like a trophy or a cash prize. We had the smoothies next door. People were fighting for smoothies. They're like, if you win, I'm getting you a hoodie. I'm getting you a smoothie. I'm getting you a t-shirt. The parents were celebrating. They were screaming. The kids had a great time. So
it
it
was
was, it
great.
was definitely all of our best life. And it's funny because at having 5 locations, while I was there, it was almost impossible to replicate how it was at that first location. Those Friday fight nights were impossible to replicate at any of the other locations that I eventually had down the line. So yeah, absolutely, definitely a
It
fond
was
memory for
great.
me as well.
Yeah.
So you talked about the impact that the martial arts had in your life, but what impact does soodothai more specifically have on your life?
Hmm. Man, I think about I love forms. It's my love language. Like I love forms. And for me, it represents me. Like the forms, of course, we have the traditional forms, but I think that the forms that are germane to soodothai really speak to me because it incorporates the yin and the yang, the hard and the soft. And man, why am I so emotional right now? It's like, but that's what my life has been. It's, sometimes I forget that, Anitra, you also have to have this fire to be able to stand up for yourself and stand up for others. And then, and still maintain your softness. And it's being able to understand when and how and where to use both,
Right.
you know? And so I think the katas, the hyungs, the forms represent that for me. And training in soodothai, it's beautiful. It's absolutely it's beautiful. I love that it's comprised of 3 different styles of martial arts. And so I don't know if I could say this, but I feel really badass.
Well, you definitely are. Let me tell you, as a fan, when I watch these fights as a fan, like MMA fights, I like to see the guy in the back training because being on the other side of it, being a coach, being a fighter myself, and being a coach of fighters, I like to. I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. So I like to look in the back and see the guy training, and I like to walk out. How bravado do they have with the walkout? And I like to see them in the corner. And if they have like a certain signature that they always do, does he do the signature? Is he walking out to the same song? So that way I can decide how confident this person is. And as an instructor or coach, I like to look and gauge those type of things in the back before my fighters go out and see what kind of confidence they have. Because I believe that when you have a change of behavior, sometimes that represents obviously, nervousness, and individuals that are pretty confident, they're pretty routine, and some people are superstitious, so they do the same thing each time. But what folks don't know is that, and I've trained all type of fighters and professional, amateur professional athletes and things like that. But Miss Anitra, when she would get ready for her MMA fights, she would do forms in the back. She would do forms in the back to calm her mind and then prepare herself to go out and fight. And I think that was badass. I was like, wow, out of every student that I've ever had, every fighter that I've ever trained, nobody's ever used those soodothai forms. And like she said, the ones specifically germane to soodothai, those were the forms that she would use in the back, and you would practice to be able to calm and ease your mind to go out and fight and then amass an undefeated MMA record. So I think that is awesome. And that's a definitely a fond memory of you and in training and coaching you that I'll never forget, because I still haven't had anyone since you who's ever done that. So that shows that you embrace the actual, the wholeness of the art and not just the fighting component itself.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody that's nervous? And I think this is a perfect question for you. What would you say to somebody who was nervous about either starting their martial art journey or about being able to resume it? What would you say to that individual?
Nervousness is okay. Like, don't fight against it. It's okay. Acknowledge it and then start. I mean, just, don't fight against it. Just acknowledge it and go, I'm nervous. Allow yourself to feel it and then start. And then while you start, when you start, pay attention to the thoughts in your mind and how you're speaking to yourself about yourself. And turn those negative messages into something positive that gives you the courage and strength to continue. And the thing is, though, the courage will come with action. Discouragement is inaction, but courage comes when you just take that first baby step. And it's okay to fail, just fail forward.
There you go. I love that. I use that. I tell people I fell upward. You know what I mean? I fell upward.
Yeah.
I might fail, but then the next time that I try something, I've achieved more or did a better job than I thought I would. Than I probably would have initially did the time in which I would have succeeded, because we learn from that. We learn from failure. You know what I mean? So that, and again, we've already talked about that with you. So you are definitely a perfect person to be speaking with today. Last but not least, and then I'm gonna let you go. I don't think I have to ask this question because you said so many positive things about your martial art journey and the academy, but would you recommend the Academy of Soodothai to anyone else?
Yes, I always talk about Academy of Soodothai. In fact, my friend joined.
That's true. That's true. And he's doing great. He's doing great.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
After coming to my testing, he was like, you know what? It's time for me. I was like, yes, come on, let's go. So that's my boy, that's my brother. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, I talk about soodothai all the time and recommend soodothai to all types of people. So yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. This was fantastic. Just going back down memory lane with you, and I love the fact that it's not memory lane, because a lot of people believe that black belt is the end. In our academy, in our system, we have different words that represent different belts. And then for us, black belt actually means student. It represents student for us. So we're still students. We're just getting started. And you didn't stop after black belt. You continue to pursue your martial art journey and continue. So even though we're catching up from old memories and old times, then we still got plenty new memories to be able to make together. So thank you so much for your time. All right. And I appreciate you. We love you. And I'll see you in class.
Yay. Thank you, sir.
Goodbye. Have a great weekend.
You too.